Good evening, Sukihotu. Thank you very much for joining us this evening for the third Q&A forum. So this is the third in a series of Q&A forum. Today, we're going to address two very important questions. So 22nd of March, Q&A forum number 3. So the first question we're going to address. Now, this is a question that was posted by a devotee in Europe, where he mentioned that in Asia, the teachings proceed from generosity, which is dāna, to morality, which is sīla, then to meditation or insight, and that is bhavana. Meditation is bhavana. To attain the fruition of meditation, that will be samadhi. So in this first part of the question, the person who asked this question was actually referring to the sequence of practice based on dāna, sīla, and bhavana. This is supported in the sutras. It was mentioned in the sutra, but it's not really, I'll explain the difference between this and the other part of the question. The second part of the question raised by this questioner is, but in the West, we begin with meditation, so this is bhavana, then say something about morality, sīla, and only after some time, as a kind of appendix, teach about generosity, dāna. Okay, so I'm going to explain that this is not the prescribed sequence. Actually, in terms of prescribed sequence, there are more than one, actually, depending on what you're trying to cultivate. So I'm just going to share with you a few different prescribed sequences which are dependent on what you are really trying to accomplish in the end. All right. So let's begin with the first one. All right. There are different perspectives and different sequences. The first one that was mentioned earlier is the practice that was mentioned, dāna, sīla, bhavana. Sorry, this is actually practice in the East. Right, this is quite commonly practiced in many places in Asia, all over Asia. Dāna first, sīla, and bhavana. And Bhante Punnaji explained that in the sutras and in the commentaries, this actually was expanded to a more comprehensive series or comprehensive sequence based on saddha, sīla, sutta, chaga, and panya. Right? Sutta is referring to listening to the Dhamma. Sutta came from the root Pali word sot, sota, which is actually hearing. Right? So sutta. Now this is not the same as a sutra, but it has the same root word based on the word sot, hearing. So this is about listening to the Dhamma and learning the Dhamma based on listening, because in ancient times it was not in writing. Everything is transmitted orally. So sutta is referring to people paying attention to a Dhamma teacher or a monk or an arahant or somebody teaching the Dhamma, and you're listening to it. So that's sutta. Chaga has often been translated as generosity, but it is more than that. It is also translated as liberality, but a true meaning of chaga is actually quite deep. It goes into a number of things, which includes sacrifices, right? Abandoning things that are unwholesome, giving up. So there are many things you have to sacrifice, many sacrifices you have to make. It also includes essence of karuna, compassion, where you are helping each other. So chaga is actually a fairly complex word. But Bhante Punnaji is going to explain that, so I won't go much further with the explanation. And then, of course, comes panya, which in this case is referring to the insightful wisdom, not just basic understanding, but very insightful, deep understanding. Right? So Bhante Punnaji will be explaining these series of five. We call it 5 stages. This is also supported in the sutras and in the commentaries. And then, of course, we have the sequence according to the Eightfold Way, which I will explain also. I have actually explained this before, but I will do it again here since it's relevant to this question, specifically in response to this question, that the prescribed sequence according to the Eightfold Way would be Sattva, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. So we'll come to that in a moment. And then we touch on this question about practice commencing with meditation. And this is the West. So in the West, it is mentioned that there are many places that the first thing they teach is meditation, and then they teach a little bit of Sila, followed by a little bit of dāna later. So this sequence is not supported in sutras or commentary. This is a sequence created in modern times because people were craving for meditation, put it this way. People wanted to meditate, so to speak, thinking that meditation is the answer to the problems. I'm going to touch on this a little bit later on. So these are the 4 perspectives, different perspectives, in answer to the question that was raised. Okay, this first one that is based on dāna, Sila, and bhavana. Basically, this is part of what is called punya kiriya vatthu. This is a series where the Buddha was quite disappointed with the superstition of people, thinking that they want, people are craving and lusting for merits. So they're doing all kinds of superstitious things which are not really good, wholesome deeds, but just superstitions, trying to gain merits from the practice of superstition. So this was what the Buddha used to teach people that if you want to earn merits, you want to gain merits, you want to create or cultivate positive karma, then you practice this punya kiriya vatthu. Right? And this is supported in the sutras. In the Aṅguttara Nikāya, there are quite a few sutras mentioning this, but the one that is specifically talking about this is found in Punya Kiriya Vatthu Sutra, Aṅguttara Nikāya, the Book of 8, Sutra 36. So AN 8.36. I'll give you the link later. You can download or you can look it up in Sutra Central. So the Buddha basically taught that there are 3 bases of meritorious deeds. Begin with giving, generosity, dāna, followed by cultivating moral virtues, and then calming the mind, mental cultivation. And here, bhavana is not referring to reaching the highest state. Here it's basically talking about calming the mind, bringing the mind to a state of stillness. So it's really very much on samatha meditation. This is really about eliminating the effects of emotional mind. Bhante Punnaji has always explained to us that we are always disturbed by the chitta, the emotional mind. So this bhavana is helping to tame and still the emotional mind. So this is really a sequence that was mentioned by the Buddha in that sutra, so that people are not chasing after merits in superstitious way. If you want to gain good merits, this is what you have to practice. So this is really not the sequence that will take you to enlightenment. This is really the sequence that help you cultivate good merits. Right? Dāna, Sila, Bhavana. Quite a simple process here. And in this Punya Kiriya Vatthu Sutra, it is actually the basis of meritorious action by practicing Dāna, Sila, Bhavana. Right? So you can then look up this sutra, and I have the link there. So if you download at the end of today's presentation, you will get the presentation file where you can see this link. If you download you access this link, you will be able to then read that sutra in Sutra Central. Aṅguttara Nikāya, Book of 8, Sutra number 36. There is another sutra in Aṅguttara Nikāya, in the Book of 6, Sutra number 37. This is Chaḻaṅ Sutra. Well, I'm not sure if I can pronounce it correctly, but it's Chaḻaṅ Sutra. This is really about the act of giving, how it can benefit you, and what you should do. So I'm not going to go into discussing the sutra. This is not a sutra class. This is really showing you the links so that you are able to look at what is mentioned in the sutra about this sequence of practicing Dāna, Sila, Bhavana. So what I'm presenting here is purely in response to the question, why are people practicing Dāna, Sila, Bhavana, right? So you can read that. But there are other stuff that I'm presenting in a moment that can help you understand this even deeper, right? Through understanding the background behind this. Now, in the commentaries, with respect to Dāna, Sila, Bhavana, the commentaries actually expanded it into 10 Punya Kiriya Vatthu. That means it's not just the 3. In the commentaries, it expanded to 10. The 3 that was mentioned is listed in the first 3, followed by a whole list of them. Okay, so this is really the description of 10 bases, 10 grounds for meritorious deeds. I'm not going to explain much further. You can actually read it up. There are very helpful resources. One of the Kalyana Mitra in Singapore, Brother Piyatan, has written quite a lot about it. So Brother Piyatan has mentioned it in his write-up. I've given you 2 links that are mentioning about this Punya Kiriya Vatthu. So you can check it up. The write-up of Brother Piyatan. For those who are not familiar, Brother Piyatan is based in Singapore. He's a scholar of the Pali Canyon. He used to be a monk some years ago, but he has since disrobed and now continue to teach very extensively and very well. He teaches very deeply. If you want to follow him, it's quite serious stuff that you have to pay attention to. So in these 2 write-ups, you can then find more explanation and information about the Punya Kiriya Vatthu. Right? So I won't say any more about this sequence. Now let's take a look at the sequence as prescribed in the Eightfold Way. In the Eightfold Way, what is in yellow is grouped collectively and often referred to as saddha. Now, actually, it depends on who mentions this, because some people group this and call this the initial level of panya. So it's also sometimes referred to as panya. But here, panya is not that ultimate wisdom. This is really basic understanding of the Dhamma. So here I use the word saddha. I used to use the panya, but now after some thought about it over the years, I realized that saddha is a more relevant and more precise explanation. And even Bhante, Punnaji, uses this, that he refers to this part, the yellow part, as saddha. So basically, it begins with samadhi, harmonious perspective. Samadhi is the essence of studying and learning, listening to sutras, and understanding the basic teachings of the Buddha. And what is the basic teachings of the Buddha? Basically, the Four Noble Truths, that there is dukkha. And what are the causes of dukkha? And that dukkha can be brought to an end. And what is the way leading to the ending of dukkha? So understanding that is samadhi. And with that understanding, you now have a clear knowledge and comprehension what the Buddha was trying to tell us. Now, at this point, I just like to remind a lot of people who may be new to Buddhism, not so much for those who've been around for a while, but well, there are also people who've been around for a while and have the same kind of concept, that people say, oh, Buddhism is so negative. It is always talking about dukkha. It's always talking about suffering. So Buddhism is really keep talking about suffering. That is not the correct way to look at it. That is not a correct perspective. I'll give you a real life example. I've mentioned this before, but I'll just repeat it here. The real life example, that if you fall sick, you wake up one morning and you feel a fever coming, and you're coughing like crazy and your throat is very tight, and then that fever and that headache is unbearable. You try to take Panadol sometimes and it doesn't help. Right? So what do people do? They go and see the doctor. And if they go to see the doctor diagnoses what's going on. He takes your temperature, heartbeat, everything, and blood pressure and everything. And then the doctor comes to the conclusion that you need to take a certain medicine. So the doctor gives you maybe antibiotics or some medicine, and then you take it. And then you feel better. And now, after a day or so, you are almost back to normal. So what happened there? The doctor gave you medicine to heal you. And then when you are healed, you're back to normal. Okay, so this is what happened there when you get sick and go and see a doctor. Now, my question to you is, do you think the doctor is the bringer of your sickness? Do you think that the doctor is the one who keeps focusing, making you think about your sickness all the time? Or do you think that the doctor is one who is the healer, the bringer of healing? Right? So in the same way, the Buddha brought his medicine, and the medicine is called the Dharma. And he taught us the Dharma to help us free ourselves from dukkha. So the Buddha actually prescribed the Dharma, which helps to free us from dukkha, just as the doctor prescribing medicine that frees you from your sickness. So Buddhism is not about sickness, Buddhism is not about dukkha, which is commonly translated as suffering. Buddhism is about freedom from dukkha. So in other words, the more accurate perspective of what is Buddhism is that Buddhism is there to teach us, to free us from suffering. Buddhism is not centered around suffering. That is a misconcept, right? People think that Buddhism is on suffering. So really, you have to straighten your perspective. What is Buddhism? Buddhism is here to teach us how to free ourselves from suffering. And that is harmonious perspective. And understanding the Four Noble Truths will help us there. And once you have understood the Four Noble Truths and you realize what I just said, and you feel confident about it based on understanding, now you have a level of confidence. That is sattva. So it's really a level of confidence, realizing what's good for you, realizing how it helps you, and then having the confidence and the devotion to do something about it. You now want to do something, and wanting to do something about it leads you to the next part, which is harmonious orientation. sama sankappa, right? And it is often translated as right intention or right thought, right? So basically now you have a goal in mind. This is really referring to having this goal. And the ultimate goal in this case, when you follow the Eightfold Way, is to attain arahantship, to experience the ultimate bliss of nibbana. So now you have a goal in mind, right? So this is the saddha, the confidence and the devotion, where you now have a goal in mind. And with that goal in mind, you are going to do something about it. Doing something about it requires a willpower, the wanting, the devotion, right? The aspiration of wanting to accomplish the fruition of what has been taught. This is energy, and this energy is not just physical energy. Physical energy is part of it, but it is also psychic or psychological energy, mental energy. And that is the willpower, the wanting. This is what sama sankappa is about. And with that, you begin to change your life, reorientate your life. You now want to do things to change your life, to begin to practice. And that leads you to the next part. So therefore, this yellow part is generally grouped as, referred to as saddha. Then with the next part, the blue part is sila. And this is cultivating virtuous morality. Or seen from another angle, it's basically cultivating virtuous behavior, right? Wholesome behavior. But with harmonious speech, sama vacha, harmonious actions, sama kamanta, and harmonious lifestyle, and that is sama ajiva. Now, this last part, sama ajiva, is translated as right livelihood. Now, livelihood is only a part of it. The essence of sama ajiva is not just about having the right occupation, but actually living your life in a good way. So in other words, first you have harmonious speech, then you have harmonious action, now you have harmonious lifestyle, living a life in accordance with the essence of the Dharma, how you can benefit from it. This is really the practice of sila. And in short, sila is morality, but it's actually a combination of virtuous morality, good behavior, right, and discipline. So sila also carries the essence of discipline. Discipline yourself to behave in a way that is consistent with what was taught. So therefore, this is the second part, from saddha to sila. And then it leads on to the third part, right? The important thing about the sila is the purification of the body. It is the discipline of your behavior, because your behavior is seen by others in terms of actions of the body, actions of what you do, actions of what you say. All these are coming out of your body. And even the way you behave, the way you show your face, you show your anger, all this is basically representing your own morality. So it is reflected in your behavior. So this sila part is the purification of the body, which is the discipline of the behavior. And if you really want to practice Buddhism in the truest way, even before you do any meditation, the first thing you need to do is observe the 5 precepts. So if you're not able to observe the 5 precepts, you're not a practicing Buddhist. Basically, that's it. So in any place where the teacher teaches you meditation first, and you don't have to worry about the 5 precepts, then you're not really learning the practices of a true Buddhist, right? So the first and foremost daily activity that a Buddhist must observe is the 5 precepts. That's the minimum, nothing less, right? So that's the minimum, observing the 5 precepts. Therefore, this is very important foundation. And it is important that if you're not able to discipline your behavior, when you try to meditate, it's not going to work very well. I'll explain why in a moment, okay? So then comes the third part, which is commonly referred to as samadhi. Sometimes in some text or in some write-up or some commentary, it may be referred to as bhavana. I basically would say it's referring to the same thing. Whether it's saying bhavana or samadhi, it's referring to this part in green. And the common word used to refer to this practice is meditation. But meditation is not a very good word to use, actually, although we've been using it throughout all the texts. The reason is that the word meditation also has a different meaning in another context. Now, before I talk more about the Buddhist meditation, I'd just like to expand on the meaning of the word meditation. I happen to have done a little bit of research and a little bit of review of other types of meditation. So the word meditation is not very accurate to use here, right? Unless, of course, you qualify it by putting the word Buddhist in front of it. Buddhist meditation. Now, I'm going to talk in answer to the next question later on. I'm going to talk about another form of meditation, which is far from this Buddhist meditation. There are also other forms. In fact, the other day, in fact, yesterday or this morning, I can't remember exactly when, I was so busy, I think it was yesterday. A very good friend of mine from the Philippines, a Catholic, who also follows a lot of teachings of the Buddha, he, despite the fact that he is a very staunch or very devoted Catholic, he also listens a lot of Dharma. So he's very open-minded. And he was asking a question about meditation. And he was asking about the fact that, okay, now he has a goal in life. He wants to accomplish some objectives in life. Let's say he actually is a therapist. He's helping some people who feel depressed by applying various forms of therapy to help depressed people. And laughter yoga is one of them. And he created his own version of laughter yoga. So he uses that a lot, and he has certain goals in life that he wants to accomplish. So his question to me was, can he meditate on the goal? That means if he can focus his mind on his goal and then try to understand how that goal can develop and how he can do whatever is necessary, the needful, to fulfill his goal. And he wants to meditate on that. Now, bear in mind, now it is not like Buddhist meditation anymore. That practice of meditation is actually called contemplation. And that word is used extensively in Catholicism, Catholic contemplations. So there are quite a number of practitioners of Catholic contemplation, and one of the most famous is a Catholic priest by the name of Father Keating, right? So there he was teaching contemplations, but they also sometimes call that meditation. So now I'm pointing out the fact that the word meditation can mean a lot of things. It means different things to different people. If you speak to a Catholic, when you say meditation, in his mind, very likely he's thinking of contemplation, because contemplation is a form of prayer also. You have a goal, now you focus on the goal, and then you think about how God Almighty can help you succeed in your goal, can help you, give you the energy, the vidya, right? Whatever is needed, help you along the way, and the blessings from God Almighty to help you accomplish your goal. And that is Catholic contemplative prayers, right? And they also call it meditation. So you have to be aware the word meditation can mean many different things. So therefore, it is quite common that this group in green is referred to as samadhi and not meditation. But sometimes it's called bhavana. But bhavana, the real meaning of bhavana is cultivation. If you think of bhavana as a practice, then it is cultivation. If you think of bhavana as a fruition or a result, then you could say it's development. Right? I'll say later the difference between cultivation and development. But basically, be aware the word meditation is not a very good word to use because it has different meaning. To different people, meditation can mean different things. Of course, within the Buddhist context, we're referring to bhavana. But when you speak of meditation generally, then it's more than just bhavana. Okay, just give me a second. I have a little problem here. I need to fix. Just one moment. I realized that there was something I needed to fix up now right away. Bear with me for a moment. Just give me 20 seconds on this. I'll just check it out. Something on my system seems to be having an issue. Okay. All right. I think it's settled. All right. Okay. Let's continue. Okay. So back to this. Bhavana can mean different things to different people. So now this is the prescribed stages of the based on the Eightfold Way. And when you practice the part in green, the fruition, the ultimate attainment is for you to become wise, right? And you gain this wisdom, insightful wisdom, right? And you will then have the ultimate knowledge. So that wisdom is panya. So panya is added on to this. Therefore, it's often referred to as saddha, sila, samadhi, panya. Okay? And that is the sequence in accordance with the Eightfold Way. So the part in green called bhavana is really the purification of mind and development of insight, panya, and the ultimate attainment. When you succeed in this practice, you will then gain panya, right? So developing insightful wisdom. Now, onwards to the 5 stages that Bhante Punnaji explained. This is found in several places. And many people also speak about it. Bhante Punnaji actually gave a very, very thorough explanation of this. And way back, I recorded the video. So now I have put there the shortcut links to 3 videos where Bhante Punnaji spoke about an introduction to the sequence, the correct sequence of practice. And he calls this Buddhism in practice, the 5 stages. So Buddhism in practice, introduction. So that then you can actually see the video. It's about 1 to 1.5 hours long. tiny.cc/practice1-intro. Okay. The second video is the one that is of more relevance to the question. And that is tiny.cc/practice2-lay. This second video, Bhante was referring to lay practice, which is in answer to the question from the person who asked. So we are all lay people. Therefore, this particular video would be more relevant. So I would suggest anyone interested to find out more about the 5 stages, please watch these 3 videos, and if you don't have time to watch the 3 videos, because the 3 videos collectively is about 5 or more hours, if you have only 1 odd hour to spare, go for the second one, Practice 2-Lay, where Bhante explained about the sequence for the lay practitioner, right? Buddhism in practice, the 5 stages for lay practitioner. And if you are interested to go further, for those who may have aspirations to become a monk one day, and I know a number of friends who are actually thinking seriously about that, and I must admit there was a time I thought about it, and then you can go for watch the 3rd video, right? Practice 3-Monastic, where Bhante explained the 5 stages for the monastic practitioner. So it's all there, including some slides, so I'm not going to repeat it. Just watch the video and you will learn quite a bit from it. So I hope that that is okay. And then you can actually listen to a brief introduction. Sorry, not a brief introduction, I beg your pardon. A more recent explanation by Bhante on this lay practice. But in this particular video, Bhante went on to talk about a little bit of other things, which are very helpful too. So this is a more recent video, right? The 3 at the top that was mentioned, the Practice 1, Practice 2, Practice 3, they were recorded back in 2011. So that's about 10 years ago. And this next one was recorded about 5 years ago. The first 3 were recorded in Buddhist Mahavihara, Brickfields, and the next one down there, Practice-5 stages. Bhante spoke about these 5 stages in one session, 1 hour plus, almost 1.5 hours, all in, including questions, where he explained these 5 stages, and this was done in Subang Jaya Buddhist Association, SJBA, about 5 years ago. A more recent video.
When we speak of the teachings of the Buddha and following the teachings of the Buddha, there are 4 main stages, which can even be described as 5 stages. But these 5 stages, the Buddha described in 2 ways. One for the layman and one for the monks. The 5 stages for the layman is described as Saddha, Sila, Sutta, Chaga, and Panya. Saddha refers to taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sila refers to disciplining your behavior, disciplining the behavior, that is, observing the 5 precepts, disciplining the behavior. Sutta refers to studying the teachings of the Buddha. He began to understand the teachings of the Buddha, Chaga is giving up attachments to things, sacrificing things for others, helping others with your strength or giving up what you have to help others, letting go of attachments, that is all coming under Chaga. And then Panya refers to understanding the Dhamma in the proper way, which is to understand three things: anicca, dukkha and anatta.
The important thing about cultivating panya is really begins with properly understanding the what is commonly called the three marks of existence, but Bhante Punnaji often calls it the three characteristics of existence. What we think of as existence: anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay, sorry. All right. So that was the 5 stages that Bhante explained about. You can listen to the complete sermon or the complete sharing by Bhante using the link at the bottom at SJBA. But if you want a more comprehensive understanding, then those 3 videos are very helpful. Okay. And saddha. Why we need to begin with saddha? Saddha is actually very important to begin with. I have mentioned earlier on about that collective group of saddha based on samadhi, often translated as right view, and sama sankappa, often translated as right intention or right thought. So those 2 become saddha. So what is saddha?
So religion, from the Buddhist point of view, is to progress towards that state of perfection. So the practice of religion is a gradual process of evolution of the human consciousness. But it begins, the starting point is to become aware of this state of perfection and desire to reach that. It becomes our goal. It is only when Buddha becomes our goal that we become Buddhists. A Buddhist is a person whose goal has become the Buddha. And in order to attain to that state, we have to appreciate that or value that. Our life, whatever we do today, depends on our sense of values. If I think money is the greatest thing in the world, I'll be doing everything to get money. If I think pleasure enjoying sensual pleasures is the greatest thing in the world. I'll sacrifice all money to enjoy these sensual pleasures. So it is that sense of values that determines our goal in life. So if we begin to realize that the greatest value in life is to reach that state of perfection, then we begin to go in that direction. So that becomes a reorientation of our life. Our life begins to turn in that direction. So to value this goal, and this goal is the highest good, and to appreciate this highest good and the goodness is what is called saddha. Saddha. Sat means what is good and true. Dha is to uphold. Uphold goodness.
That was Bhante Punnaji explaining saddha, to uphold goodness. And this is really the very important starting point, to be able to understand what you want to accomplish and having that goal. And Bhante mentioned that the ultimate goal of a Buddhist is to become a Buddha or become an Arahant, to attain the Arahantship, right? The final fruition. So this is really a very important starting point. You don't begin anywhere else. You don't start meditating. You begin with this understanding. Then you are really practicing as a true Buddhist. If you begin with meditation and without this, then maybe you just want to learn meditation. You're not really practicing as a Buddhist. So I hope the first question was answered. Now we move on to the next question. Question number 9. Am I right to infer that Samatha and Vippasana will raise the brainwave frequency band to gamma for the high practitioners, while Transcendental Meditation, TM, will bring the frequency to a lower level, say delta band? Now, this question was actually referring to my previous presentation, where I spoke about the brain waves, that when the brain waves slow down, we become drowsy. But if we are meditating correctly in Buddhist meditation, the brain waves go up, the frequency rises, and it goes into a higher band called the gamma band. And there your mind becomes very critical, very discerning, and very insightful, able to see through. And the ability to see through things is actually called Vippasana. V means discerning, to be able to differentiate, distinguish, to be able to see through things, discerning. Because V has many meanings. V can also mean separation. V can also mean without. But here V is, it's actually connected with separation. It uses separation to mean you are able to discern, differentiate, distinctively see. So Vippasana. Pasana is talking about the ability to see, right? And here it's not seeing with the eyes, but seeing with the mind. So therefore, that is really the essence of Vippasana, ability to discern clearly. So when you practice meditation or bhavana and it raises to that gamma band, right, then your mind is very sharp, very clearly insightful and seeing, right? But if you are drowsy, your brain waves slow down, then you fall into drowsiness. Let's take a look at this brainwave thing. Right? And I'm going to explain a bit more about transcendental meditation. Again, this points to the fact that the word meditation is often used in a way that does not reflect what Buddhist meditation is about. So when we say meditation in Buddhism, we should qualify it by saying Buddhist meditation. Here, I'm qualifying this by calling this TM transcendental meditation. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that in a moment. Let's take a look at the brain wave. Brain wave is used to measure the levels of consciousness. And I'll just repeat what I presented earlier on. So when we are awake, this is in the blue box, we are awake, and I think we go back one step. What is brainwave for? You see, when we see something with our eyes, a part of the brain will process that image. Another part of the brain will try to interpret that image. Another part of the brain will try to differentiate the different colors of what we see. Another part of the brain will try to see the shapes and the forms of what was perceived. So many different parts of the brain process anything that we either perceive or cognize. That means what we see or what we think. Different parts of the brain are all working to do those things, the processing. And if each one is allowed to do its own thing, then the brain will be all jumbled up like a jungle. But in order for them to put together, bring together a more stable thought, something that is streaming in a way where you can understand, not all jungle, then they all need to operate at the same brain wave, the same frequency, and this is called synchronous oscillatory frequency, the oscillation of each part of the brain. And they must be synchronized. That's why it's called synchronous oscillatory frequency. In short, it's called brain waves, and it's measured in hertz. When you are awake and aware, then you are in the beta state, and this is having a brainwave frequency between 13 to 30 hertz. 13 and above means you are consciously aware. When you see something, you know what it is. You know what you have just seen. When it approaches 30, your mind is very critical. You're able to discern a little bit, oh, this thing is good for me, this thing is not good for me. So you're able to be critically judgmental, or judgmental in a good way, that you're able to judge clearly. And this is a kind of alertness, right? So in other words, you can either be critically alert or you can be just aware, right? So this is brain waves. If brain waves slow down, you go into drowsiness, and this is called the unconscious awareness. You are aware, but you're not, the word conscious here means you're not clearly aware of everything relative to one another. You're just aware something is happening. So it's kind of a drowsy state. Some people call this the subconscious state. That is when your brain waves slow down below 13 and go down to almost 8. In fact, this is the state where you're falling asleep. It's drowsiness. You're not asleep yet, but you are at a state of drowsiness. And I hope some of you are not in this state right now. Okay, so this is drowsiness. Falling below that, then you are asleep. You are sleeping. And the drowsiness state in yellow is alpha state, and then the sleep has 2 stages. The REM sleep, which is theta, and the very deep sleep, they call it slow wave sleep, SWS, slow wave sleep, that is delta, falling below 4 hertz. In REM sleep, you have dreams. You may even have nightmares. That is all REM sleep. So the mind is still carrying a lot of thoughts floating, and may even keep you sort of in a hypertensive state. Whereas when you fall into deep sleep, it goes down to the delta stage, delta bandwidth. Then you go into deep sleep, which is usually dreamless. Basically, it is dreamless sleep. And it's good to sleep, fall asleep to that state. If you can have deep sleep, slow wave sleep in the delta range, you don't even need long. 1 hour of that, you become very well rested. Right? So if you are constantly in REM sleep, then your mind may not be so well rested by the time you wake up. So this is really when brain waves slow down. When you meditate properly, and I showed the video, the explanation by the neuroscientist, Richard Davidson, the foremost scientist. So in other words, the one most famous and well-respected authoritative person, neuroscientist, who researches Buddhist meditation, specifically Buddhist meditation, that is Richard Davidson. He has already explained this. So in one of the previous Q&A, right? And when you meditate, your brainwave rise. So when your meditation or your bhavana is working, and you are now, your mind is still and able to see very clearly, your mind is into clear introspective state, then you start to enter into gamma bandwidth, and above that is gamma. And when it reaches a higher state of alertness, clarity of mind, then your mind goes into insight. This is really panya, right? When you get into there, your mind is now clearly seeing, so it's panya. So there is a cutoff point called the critical factor or critical level. Below the critical level, the mind is not very critical. In other words, it's not very discerning. It's not sharp, right? Whereas above that, the mind is very sharp. So immediately above that level, the mind is in a state of critical alertness. Higher than that, you are in deep introspection. You're very clearly introspective, able to see what's really going on inside. And higher than that, your mind is able to gain this insightful wisdom, panya. So therefore, this critical factor is very important. Buddhist meditation is above that. Other types of meditation is below that. So I'll show you what are the other types. One of the things that's below critical factor is hypnosis. Right? Hypnosis works on slowing down your brain waves so that you fall into what is called subconscious state or unconscious awareness, drowsiness. Eventually, you may even go into sleep or even deep sleep. So hypnosis can also be used to induce deep sleep. So hypnosis basically slows down the brain wave. First to a drowsy state, then subconscious, then sleep, right? Because the word hypnos really means sleep. So hypnosis works by slowing down brainwave. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't think that when you are drowsy, your mind doesn't understand anything. No, that's not necessarily true. A lot of people have researched this and found that when the mind is in a subconscious state, it is able to receive, well, on the one hand, it is suggestions, able to receive suggestions, and that's how hypnosis works. Hypnosis slows down your brainwave, and then using the power of suggestion, make your mind think very deeply about something. Right? So that is how hypnosis works. But at that state, in the yellow box, the alpha state, the mind is very susceptible to suggestions. And that's how hypnotherapy works. And I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I used to practice it a lot, but nowadays I don't do it so much. What I do is that when I bring a person into that state, I give that person the kind of suggestions that help the person to do better in life. And then that person receives these suggestions and accept them in the mind, and it gets embedded into the memory. So when he goes to his normal awake state, it keeps popping up, reminding him how he can overcome certain problems. So a person who's suffering from depression, so we first have to understand what was leading to that depression, and then by using the power of suggestion, we can bring that person to get out of this depressive mood. There are other practices, other forms of meditation that do bring the brain wave to that, slow down the brain wave. Chanting. When I say chanting, I mean blind chanting or just repetitive robotic chanting. Right? Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Just robotic, just repeating. And this repeating eventually slows down the brain waves and put the mind in the yellow box, the drowsiness state. And this is also, it also works in a certain way, because if you're chanting something helpful, when your mind is in that state, you are also receiving the suggestions. So this kind of meditation can be effective also in that sense, right? And mantra-based meditation, right, where you have a phrase you repeat to yourself. Therefore, this also connects with what I mentioned previously about contemplation, right? Contemplative prayer. It also works because there, when you have a positive mantra is basically a statement you use to tell yourself something, right? And usually, of course, it is helpful. And if you are able to focus on that and repeat it, then you are actually programming your mind to follow that, right? So you have to be careful what you focus on. If you focus on unwholesome thoughts, you are programming your mind to follow that, and it goes into your memory. In your awake state, it arises and it drives you to behave in that way. So be careful what you think. If you think unwholesome thoughts in that state, you will behave unwholesomely in real life. Right? So that is mantra-based meditation. And that is where transcendental meditation comes in. Transcendental meditation is actually mantra-based meditation. It's actually a combination of mantra-based meditation and hypnosis. But don't look down on transcendental meditation. Transcendental meditation is very helpful for people who are depressed. So if you have anxiety, panic attacks, depression, bipolar conditions, right? All these, transcendental meditation can be more helpful to you than Buddhist meditation initially, because this is really basically a kind of psychotherapy. I think some of you may have heard Bhante Punnaji mention, right, that Western psychotherapy is to help a person who is mentally abnormal, or rather psychically or psychologically abnormal, or having some abnormality in the psyche, right, to help that person return to normality, become normal. Whereas Buddhist meditation is then to help a normal person become super normal, to become the Arya. So here it is helping people who are experiencing some kind of abnormality in their psyche. They can be depressed, having panic attack, bipolar, or anxiety, or even PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So transcendental meditation is very helpful for that. Now, Buddhist meditation. Samatha meditation actually stills the mind. And when the mind is still, it is able to see clearly, distinctly, seeing clearly. And therefore, that's what Samatha meditation tries to do. Still the mind to the point that the mind is now tranquil and clear. Then the fruit of this practice is the experience of jhana, where the mind is very tranquil. Right? And then going further than that is the practice of vipassana, or what Bhante Punnaji would call vidassana, where you then cultivate satipatthana and cultivate and reach the fruition of upekkha when you practice satta bojjhanga, the 7 steps to awakening. So here, I'm referring to the practice of Sattva Bojjhanga that leads to the mind attaining the state of upekkha. There it is in the high gamma range, insight form. And you gain insightful wisdom, you gain panya. So there you have it. Samatha meditation raises the brain waves, and then when you go into Vipassana meditation, it leads it to higher. And that practice is Sattva Bojjhanga. It begins with Satipatthana and then leading on to Sattva Bojjhanga. I mentioned this in a previous sharing already, answering that in the sutras, it is mentioned clearly. Anapanasati, when cultivated and developed, leads to the fulfillment of Satipatthana. Satipatthana, when cultivated and developed, leads to the fulfillment of Sattva Bojjhanga. And Sattva Bojjhanga, when cultivated and developed, leads to the fulfillment of panya. Right? So that's how it works. Sattva Bojjhanga's fulfillment is upekkha, and that leads to panya. So I hope this answers the question. Right? So I'm going to touch a bit on explanation of Transcendental Meditation. I mentioned earlier on the foremost authority, brain scientists, neuroscientists, researching Buddhist meditation was Richard Davidson. In Transcendental Meditation, there is another equivalent, that is Dr. Fred Travis, very respected neuroscientist who works under Maharishi University of Management. Maharishi is actually the founder of Transcendental Meditation. Here he's explaining, right, how Transcendental Meditation can affect the brain.
What we have here is the traumatic experience turns on the amygdala. In the men, it turns on the amygdala to the right, which is context. In the women, it turns on the amygdala to the left, which are the details of experience. The amygdala is your fear center. So what this is doing is creating a veil of fear through which you're experiencing the world. So you're hypervigilant. You're vulnerable. You think people don't understand you. Because this is what your brain is telling you. In addition, the amygdala is turning on the fight or flight response. The fight or flight response turns off the front part of the brain. Front part of the brain is the boss of the brain. It's what lets you put things together. Now, next slide. Traumatic experiences have turned on the amygdala. To turn it off, we need an experience that's the opposite of trauma. We need an experience which is holistic and not fragmented. An experience which is silent and not chaotic. And meditation experiences bring these kinds of experiences to you. But meditations are different. So we need to choose our meditation thoughtfully. Next slide. There's a lot of information on this slide, so let me take you through it. First, this arrow here on the left is indicating level of cognitive control from lowest to highest. The highest level of cognitive control are meditations that are in focused attention. These are your concentration meditations. You keep the mind on one thing, you don't let the mind move. When you're doing that, this is what your brain looks like. It's called gamma EEG. It's very fast. It's 20 to 50 cycles per second. Meditations in this category, for instance, are Tibetan Buddhists. Loving kindness and compassion. Middle level of control, the category is open monitoring. In these meditations, it's medium level of control because you're letting things go through your mind, but you're not controlling. When you're doing this, you see a slower frequency. It's called theta. It looks like this. It goes up and down 5 to 8 times per second. In this category are meditations like mindfulness, zazen. Now, meditations in these first two categories keep the mind in the process of thinking, of doing. They keep the mind in that same veil of fear that PTSD is turned on. And so what's reported is these meditations have very limited effects on reducing PTSD symptoms. The last category, automatic self-transcending, is lowest level of cognitive control. These are meditations which transcend their own activity. These are meditations which allow you to transcend thinking and experiencing your essence, inner pure consciousness, inner self-awareness. And these have to be automatic. They have to be effortless, because any doing would not have let that process happen. Transcendental meditation is in this category.
So you hear Dr. Travis mention that transcendental meditation is in that category. So here you can see that in the gamma range, that's focused attention. And slowing down the brain waves to the theta and delta, that is really transcendental meditation. So there you have it, the foremost neuroscientist researching transcendental meditation has clarified that transcendental meditation is slowing down the brain waves. Buddhist meditation is speeding up the brain wave to the higher state. Okay. So in a nutshell, below the critical factor would be hypnosis and transcendental meditation, commonly called TM. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, TM, transcendental meditation, was the most commonly practiced form of meditation throughout the West. And basically, it makes people interactively engage with these sensory objects. When you recall memory objects, when you recall something, you focus on it and you manipulate it, you interact with it. Whereas Buddhist meditation is stilling the mind so that we become free from emotional states. Sustained focused attention, introspective awareness, withdrawn from these sensory objects and so on. So I hope this is clear. This has answered that question, right? And okay, before I go there, I just want to share one more thing. Just give me a second while I share one more thing here, talking about meditation. Okay. All right. Now, Bhante has Bhante has explained before that bhavana, what we often call meditation, it's really cultivation of mind, training of the mind. It is by being conscious. So bhavana in the Buddhist sense is really to be conscious all the time, that we can control our emotions. And the constant practice of being conscious is what the Buddha called bhavana, cultivation and development. Cultivation is the practice of doing it. Development is the process of getting the benefit from it. Right? So cultivation is like planting the trees and nurturing the tree, feeding it with nutrients. And development is when the tree grows up and starts to bear fruits. So development is attaining fruition. Cultivation is the process of doing it. So that's the difference between cultivation and development. Cultivation is planting, doing it, nurturing it, and watching it, and correcting what is wrong, and making sure that what is right is being supported. Development is that to get the benefit from it, the fruition of the practice. Right? So therefore, it is really to stop the emotions from disturbing us. Okay, I seem to have a little problem here with my PowerPoint. Okay, I'll just do it here. Right, so one of the important things is people try to meditate, they don't prepare. They just find a corner, they sit down, and they just put their hands together, and then they close their eyes, and they think they're meditating. Very often, if you do that, your brainwave will slow down. Some people even lean back. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So there are important things you need to do to prepare to meditate. 4 simple steps to prepare. The first step is posture. Make sure that you sit comfortably in a soft posture, meaning that you're not all tensed up, meaning that you're not in any position where there's tension in the body. Centralize your sitting bone and straighten your back. I'll show you some techniques in a moment. Relaxation, releasing muscle tensions, because our muscles are very tense. So we got to prepare for meditation, relax. And slow down your breathing, allowing breathing to slow down. I say LSD breathing, right? Long, slow, deep breathing. And then bring your attention inwards. You got to do these 4 things before you even close your eyes. But of course, maybe some of these you may want to do with eyes closed. But basically, you don't begin to meditate without doing these 4 things. Right? Comfortable posture with the back straight. Releasing tensions in the body so that your body is now comfortable and relaxed. Allow your breathing to slow down naturally, because if your breathing is hyperventilating, then you will not be able to meditate successfully. Allow it to slow down first before you really begin your meditation practice. And then gently bring your attention inwards. And that is introspection. So let's go through that. Sitting bone. People who sit with a curved back, then they're not really sitting on top of the sitting bone, and it can be very tiring later on. So people who feel tensions in the back, in the buttocks and all that, is because they're not seated properly. And also don't get a cushion that is too soft. Get one that is very firm, right? Not necessarily hard surface, but something firm. Right? So sit right on top of your sitting bone and straighten your back naturally. So I'm going to show you a simple technique. When people say straighten your back, what do people do? They straighten up, and then they apply a lot of tensions in the body. I'm going to show you a simple technique how to straighten your back without applying tension. First, you just roll your shoulder forward 3 times as you breathe in. Breathing in, roll your shoulder forward. And then on the last roll, allow your breathing to exhale. Just let go your breath. That is 1. Next, now do this gently. Don't do it harshly. Roll it backwards in reverse order. As you breathe in, and on the 3rd roll, you release your breath, exhale. Let go. Okay. Now, the 3rd thing is you repeat the first step, and that is to roll it forward, breathing in gently, not doing it very hard, and then release your breath. Now the 4th step is a little different, right? Very gently raise up your shoulder as you breathe in, pull it back slightly, not too hard, just gently while breathing in, and then pause for a moment, short moment, a fraction of a second, and then gently allow it to drop. And as you breathe out, release your breath. And you will find your back is now perfectly straight. This is how you can straighten your back without exerting tensions. Because many people, they put some muscle tension in order to straighten the back. And that doesn't help. This does not actually cause you to apply muscle tension. On the contrary, this helps you release the tension in your shoulders. Because as you roll forward and you roll backward, notice you will hear the sound, crick, crick, crack, crack, crick, crick, crack, crack. That is very good because it's loosening your joints, right? So that's really how you can straighten your back. And then you slow down your breathing with long, slow, deep breathing, right? Just gently allow. The key word is allow. Allow breathing to flow. Maybe the first time you do it, 4 seconds. Later on, gradually 5 seconds, okay? So I hope that has been helpful. These are the 4 steps. Okay. Sorry. So I hope that has been helpful. Just, yeah. All right. So that ends my presentation. You can now download the slides, presentation slides, tiny.cc/QAFORUM3. And if you have questions after this, you can email to me or whatever. So for those of you who may have some questions, let me see if there are people who may have posted questions. So far, no one has posted those questions yet. So, okay, that ends my presentation, and let's finish off. We have spent the last 1.5 hours together sharing the Dharma, and hopefully we have all benefited from it. While engaging in this wholesome and meritorious activity, we would have accumulated good merits. We would like to dedicate these merits to people around the world who may be suffering from the coronavirus pandemic. So let's put our palms together and recite together. Right? We dedicate the merits we have acquired from sharing the Buddha Dharma to all beings affected by the coronavirus pandemic around the world. May suffering beings be suffering free. May the fear-struck fearless be. May grieving beings shed all grief. May all beings find peace and relief. By the grace of the merits we have acquired, may we never follow the foolish. May we follow only the wise until we attain the highest and most supreme bliss of Nibbana. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I wish you well. Please stay safe. And may you be well, comfortable, peaceful, and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.